Alrighty, good afternoon. If you're there, well, yeah, you are. Oh shit.
I had no idea my mic was muted. My bad.
You're fine, dude. You're fine. So, do you want to run like any type of random position, or like do you want to continue what we were having yesterday? 'Cause I kind of feel like that'd be redundant to do the latter, but the first option,
Uh, that's up to you. I'm not. I'm done for anything.
oh yeah, sure. So, what's your opinion on a air theorist like type B?
Type B error theory.
Yes, type B air theory.
Uh, I actually haven't looked into it very much. I remember reading the definition off, but
Would
uh,
you like analytics for it? Just like a retract. Yeah, so when you like say that type B there, you'd be saying there's like little room for which normativity is just right, and I would assume in some type of more oh yeah, relativist or subjective sense for that to be like justifiable. Or you could take like a more realist, like sophomore realist, or be a minimalist for that. Like a just depends on that for what type of normativity you talk about. But more so, any other theories which accommodate to like uh other stances which would obviously be against your type of theory for like metaethics or your view, it would just be incorrect. And it just leaves that specific view.
give
It's
me a
like,
second. There's a plane outside my house.
no, take your time.
All right. So
Sorry there.
can you read the last thing you said?
Yeah, I can just repeat the entire definition, but concisely this time so it doesn't take too much time up. Uh, when you refer to air theory type B, you could take some type of metaethical view, and the other stances in which would be against that would be wrong. So it kind of eliminates the other ones, and it's just like an elimination process. And then there's only like one type of normativity. That normativity could be what you view as right. It could be a system, I guess, but more so, it just matters that other views and other systems are kind of redundant to assume as true.
Okay, so you're saying that there's okay, other meta-ethical views are wrong, and there's only one type of normativity, and that normativity would be redundant.
No, I said other stances in which you would assume against your own stance in which you would pick when regarding the metaethical type B stance. Well, hold on, I'll just say this again. It's only one stance you would assume to be right, and other stances are not the same, meaning it would be obviously false in that sense. The other ones are going to be redundant to assume as true against your own view if you accept some type of area theory type B on other stances, and then your own metaethical view is like justifiable.
That doesn't sound like a type B error theory that's like specific. Okay, that doesn't. No, my bad. That's the wrong way to word that. That doesn't sound like anything specific to type B error theory. Because I'm looking at the definition that was given by this person named. What's his name? What's his name? Wait, where's his name at? Anthony Robert Booth. And that sounds nothing like what I'm reading here. Because what it sounds like to me is that you're saying that holding type B error theory is just a matter of whether or not other views against that error theory are going to be redundant in some way with respect to your own position, or not those positions can be false. And that just sounds like something that like anyone can say, regardless of like their meta ethical view. So if I'm like some sort of meta ethical constructivist, I could say that like I don't know what's that one view? Prescriptivism is false with respect to the position I have, and that doesn't seem very differentiated from the type B error theory that you're outlining here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry, give me a minute. I'm doing something right now. Yeah, sorry, I'm back. When you said you could be like a meta-ethical constructivist, it's more so like when you sit there and say, "Oh yeah, obviously I would have some type of objectivist." No, sorry, not objectivist, subjectivist account. And more so, I feel like that'd be like a Kantian because he views like rationality as like, of course, like accepting some type of moral procedure. But when you sit there and say moral error theory type B, right? Give it a minute. Or yeah, this is like what I said. You can have some type of normativity, but more so, a lot of them would be like false in that sense. Like maybe I came up with a generalized statement, but I mean, like repeat what you would like view as like a some type of definitionary approach.
To what? To like error theory?
Type B specifically.
Well, I don't have a definition of type B error theory. I'm just not sure how type
Yeah,
B
but
error theory differentiates itself from type A error theory.
so you said what type? Because we're talking about type
Type A
B.
error
What else?
theory, like the normal error theory that you learn in like any like regular meta ethics book. Because type B error theory is something new I've only learned about recently. It's not something
Yeah,
that you'd see in like a
yeah.
meta ethics book
Normal,
on like a general
the
introduction.
the normal error theory you would assume to be like, oh yeah, all moral judgments are false, but type B leaves room for normativity. That's the reason why I sat there and said, oh yeah, because you could have some type of normativity, but other stances would obviously, of course, when making judgments or just conclusive like things, the morals obviously have no type of like value in that sense, and you would only take value in like what type B would or your type of normativity would allow in that sense.
So all moral judgments are false under type B, but there are normative judgments that aren't false,
No, no,
right?
okay. Normal error theory would view that all moral judgments or of course like moral conclusions in which we can gain for that practice, it would sit there and say all of them are false, but type B leaves room for normativity, which obviously I would assume you already know the analytics for it, just like right. And yeah, so like all like things which you would it's like assumed to be like major in that sense for other stances obviously have some type of regression when you have your own stance and you think, oh yeah, this is like, normativity or just normative in that sense. For like under the system which you operate under. So is my mic lagging? Can you hear me right?
It's like a thing in and out, but like you have noise suppression on, and it's like very easy to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's do you need me to repeat or do you need me to type this in the chat just in case you didn't catch that?
Just type it out this time because I'm really not seeing how this is different from what I'm saying. You're white. You're white.
Anywho.
You're white.
There you go.
Maybe.
I mean, if you think like the minimalist thing I added is like wrong, just please let me know because when I was saying about error theory, it's just like you can obviously tell that all like moral things are just like false when it comes to that, and that includes subjectivist, subjectivist, or of course when you analyze that. But error theory type B, like type B allows for like a bit of normativity, which is what I've been like kind of saying for a while now.
So moral error theory for yourself, moral political to a false purpose. Okay. And type B error theory. Yeah, that's kind of what I said the first one I said. This is closer to what I'm reading.
Well,
Like
the
that.
thing is, you said you didn't see any type of distinction between like the normal area theory versus like the area theory type B. What I'm trying to sit there and say is that I think there's a distinction because one's a minimalist and one kind of rejects everything. So it's kind of like a nihilistic approach when you type and you like analyze the stances and what they try and say.
No, I was saying that the way you were explaining it verbally was what was leaving me no
Oh,
distinction.
well, I don't think I said it because I said it leaves out like normativity, but I'm not gonna focus on like the specific semantics because I'm not here for a meta debate. But what's your stance on meta ethics? Like, would you accept type B or like what's your view? Maybe that's more coherent, I guess. God.
Um, the last view that well, I don't really have a view. I have kind of like a set of commitments more per se. But if
What would
anything,
your
I'm closer to like a pluralist. I don't. I hold to the view that's kind of like Lance Besk, if you know who that is. So like I don't hold to like a specific semantic thesis about meta ethics. I think that whether or not someone can have a particular, so give
yeah?
a
You
particular
just
semantic like moral facts is like contingent on whether or not there's some sort of context that warrants it, or some context that de facto has that semantics being deployed. And with respect to like a metaphysical or like an what's the other thesis? What's the other one? I don't think I have a physical thesis at all, and I also don't think that I have. What's the other one? Fuck. Yeah, I don't have a ethics thesis in particular. I'm only really like a semantic pluralist about things.
a semantical pluralist. All
Yeah,
right, all right.
pretty much.
So since you're like a pluralist on like the meta ethical approach, and like, of course, when you say semantics, you of course refer to how we gain referentials into like the knowledge about the terminology, or no?
Now, when I say semantics, I mean like the idea of meaning, like regards with how
Oh, okay,
we
okay.
words and what they mean when we use them.
Yeah, because I was a bit worried when you said semantics. I was just hoping that you didn't like mean, oh yeah, I just refer to these specific words together because like some people will be hella ratty like that. But uh, so since we're going on towards the about, do you have like any type of argument for why like plurals be like more suited than like a type B like normative stance? Because like considering one's a minimalist, and then you can say, oh yeah, depending on context, one would be justified over the other. So I'm assuming because each situation or context you can apply to a situation involving like moral like values can have like a different justification, thus would be like a minimalist towards its own account of the situation. Like, do you think holding the value is just better? Like, yeah, just give the justification. My bad for yapping.
So I don't know if I can give like an argument, but I can give a reason. It's not like it's not like an argument, but like a motivation for like my pluralism or semantic pluralism specifically is that like I don't see what or rather it doesn't strike me as very coherent when people say that there's only one type of semantic statement that can be made with regards to like moral facts and ethics. And then like for example when uh error theorists like say that all people or well not when they say that all people but like kind of like a summary of it, right? When error theorists talk about whether or not people can um, speak in like a cognitivist way or like a realist way about ethics and moral facts. I don't see what's stopping a person from using, their moral judgments to express non-cognitive, uh, non-cognitive, non-cognitivist like sentiments. And whether or not that's possible is a matter of whether or not, well, it's not a matter that we can like ascertain from the armchair, if you understand what I mean by that. It's like if someone wanted to express a moral judgment and that moral judgment stood for some non-propositional content, it'd be weird to say that they can't make that type of statement based on whether or not you hold some particular semantic thesis that you derived like a priori. It just doesn't seem coherent to say that like all people make this type of statement and then it's like I don't really ever see other people have arguments for why we should ever hold their semantic thesis either. So like when people talk about semantics, I feel like a motivation for being sort of a pluralist about it is that like there's really nothing stopping a person from expressing themselves in like ways that just are very contrary to the ways that these other people talk about, in semantic theories. So like if I wanted to say, you know, uh if I wanted to be like a prescriptivist, it's easy to give me like it's easy to give a counter example in the field of ethics of whether or not people can like talk in a non-prescriptivist way. Because I could just say, oh, well, in this context, I was talking to a person and I was meaning when I stated some moral judgment X, I was meaning Y. And Y is just something that doesn't at all that isn't at all compatible with like a prescriptivist theory. And I don't see how that's not going to be something that's just a clear and cut counterexample to the theory of prescriptivism, for example, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To maybe like respond to like one of the points you had, which is about like I don't see why like people would express them or just like uphold to like another view like that has like some type of propositional engagement. If you were to refer to something as like a similar saying, let's just say if someone was a prescriptivist, right, and they said, "Well, I'm a prescriptivist because X, Y, and Z," and someone was a realist, like a moral realist, like a minimalist, speaking wise, like if they were a naturalist, I feel like that'd be like a minimalist, more realistic account. And they sat there and said, "Oh yeah,
You
so I
think?
believe."
Never mind.
No, no, no. I was giving an example, but to be clear and hopefully heard this time, I was just sitting there saying, because if someone were to say, "Oh yeah, I view these metaethical procedures like a naturalist and what you would believe in," they're sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, this," and then a prescriptivist says, "Well, why can't we just sit there and say take that to be like a motivation from your words, and how do we know it's like true? Like someone's just asking for like some type of way we know, like questioning the knowledge part." I think when you sit there and apply a knowledge part for how we truly, of course, like engage these things and truly like uphold a propositional field across the thing, if that's even coherent, I would sit there and say, well, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be about statements, maybe about the effects of morals. Maybe we have to tackle like the morals instead of how people view them. Like, of course, like it's again, it is about like the views people hold, but I mean, like you truly have to dive into the effects and what we truly think about it and how like what's true and not. And like also I think it also depends on truth and what type of factor of truth you hold to. Like sitting there saying if I was a pragmatist or if like when you accept pragmatist things or pragmatist theories, if I sat there and said, "Oh yeah, well, this theory seems to hold more value and more explanatory things," then obviously I think I'm gonna take it because it's better useful, it's this and that. And someone's a prescriptivist, right? And if they can't like abide by these things, I think when it comes to propositional content, you could definitely hold to a specific view. And I think that is the case when it comes to like principles which involve like explanation, justification, and like I think truth doesn't matter a lot. So yeah. I don't know if that's like a response, but I'm just giving like a side to why I can hold like theory type B, and then of course you sitting there saying, oh yeah, because like I don't see why people would have a hold to like propositional things as you said. Like hopefully that's a valuable summary of what you said, but that's what I like take to be.
So, okay, let me give you like so here, let me outline thing. Let me see if I can articulate this.
Wait,
Do you hold a
you
particular like huh?
sorry, so sorry. I was just gonna ask, did you like hear everything I was saying, or like do you need better explanation? Because I could be more concise.
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. So overall, what I'm just saying is that, like, just to be sure though, like, and you were sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, you don't see why, like, why a specific person would have to hold propositional content of like a meta-ethical view because of what you like per chance mean of like a pluralist, right?"
Yeah, it's essentially like the charge that like whether or not someone means some like whether or not someone means X or Y by some moral judgment is going to be not demanded. It's going to be dependent on something like the context rather than like whether or not you can ascertain it from the armchair like a priori.
Yeah. All right. What I was just saying though, now that you actually confirmed that, and now that I know that I did correctly your response, what I was just saying is that I think when it comes to theories of truth and everything, I think because I'm a pragmatist, I said this like yesterday. I think when it comes to that, I think of course when you uphold like a better propositionally justified thing, I think you can guarantee like some type of better like you know moral accounting because I don't pertain to like a Kantian view where it's like rationality, like morality is like the best fit in rationale. But I would sit there and say it does give better motivations.
Do you think there's a superior or overrising overriding reason to hold that um like moral talk is positional essentially?
Well, I just sat there and said, like, by explanation, like, I'm not sitting there saying, like, it's overall better to choose this as an option. I'm just sitting there saying it depends on like person, like how they express it. I think you can make it like, of course, like propositional in this sense, and I think when you hold a moral theory, you best be open to choosing what better explains it philosophically. Because, like, I know I said, like, oh yeah, it depends on like you. Well, you said sorry. Depends on context. But I think to better suit something like a explanation of like morals and everything. I think it just comes down to like better explanation and how we would approach moral theories. Like I don't think it's not just based off what a person like says or does or like prescriptivist. I think the best theory ought to have like best explanation or just have a good explanation to it to try and choose because like you could definitely be like a maximalist and sit there and say there's other better options instead of being a minimalist towards the options which you would already know to have because like that's why I find explanation to be the best or justification truth etc just like anything which can like of course support in terms of like pillars of epistemology like theories of truth like that adding to like explanation.
So it sounds like you're trying to say something along the lines of immoral, or at least like a semantic theory of like ethics, should have some room in it to provide an explanation for how moral talk works, right?
Well, yeah. That's what goes for most of it. But I think to clarify for the last part, I said when it comes to propositional things, about morality, like sit there and say, oh yeah, it's better for this if we were to measure it and or just give like some type of quantification for what seems to be best. I think when choosing the best possible morals of a world, I think you'd have explanation, see how they are affected, just like in terms of what's like utilitarianistic, maybe as well what it's in effect because like if someone explains a moral theory to be true I think when someone hits like moral things, you try and sit there and say, oh yeah, it's morally good. Like a moralist might say, oh yeah, it's a moral fact, like morally good objectively, yada yada yada. Like maybe that's like a realist part, but if it fails to be like even a mention of like a hedonistic utilitarianistic thing, which is like what's in best for the person of interest, I think like maybe it lacks an
Wait,
explanation for why.
that's that's
It's,
egoism.
what'd you say? Sorry.
That's ethical egoism. It's like the ethical theory that, well, the normal ethical theory that holds
I
that
understand
what's
what
good for
ego.
a person is like in their self interest. That's ethical egoism.
Yeah, hold on. I was trying to sit there and say if it's like not morally good, it could you could sit there and say, oh yeah, an hedonistic utilitarianistic approach is like egotistical in that part for that view front. I mean, like that's when it's an application. I'm not typically talk about what's better for like the person's interest. I'm sitting there saying about the facts. Like if it's not morally good, I think there should be an explanation about this fact to why it's not good. Therefore, it makes it morally good, more like objectively immoral or subjectively immoral. Like it just depends on that explanation. Like you could definitely have like a talk about what was it? Shit. Uh yeah, explanation. Sorry. I think it just matters based on like if we can explain immoral things in application. Like if it just doesn't have that, then I think like an application where we try and sit there and make the claim, oh yeah, this is not good. Like what I'm just trying to say is that there could definitely be like explanations out there. And if it's not, then I don't think that's good because obviously it lacks that. As I've been saying for the past part, but I feel like I should have brought up the other examples to show that the part I'm talking about is more so a factor for determining.
So then, okay, it sounds like you're bringing up like meta theory about like moral semantics, and I'm not sure if you're saying that as a like response to my view to say that like my view doesn't have a sort of like adequate explanation. This fucking dog doesn't have like an adequate explanation to like figure in some sort of truth, or is that what you're saying? Like that my
No,
theory
no, 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 no.
doesn't have
I'm
like
just
adequate motivation?
no, no, no. I'm just trying to sit there and say I think when it comes to moral theories, I think it's just best to explain it this way. And I'm like giving an analysis on what would probably be like a motivator for me to believe in like what type B and see why I would feel in that because like I'm not diving into argumentation. I'm just giving what would be that. And like obviously like if you could sit there and say in your view like if something's not like propositional, I think that could be like a good explanation for moralism, but I feel like that would also be propositional.
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's like a reason, well, not to say that all reasons are like propositional, but like if you're saying that like some set of declarative sentences is the reason for or like a motivation for like some theory, then yeah, that'd be proposition. Well, no, not the set itself, but it at least relates to like propositional things. Because I'm not gonna say like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say like before like an argument's propositional. That literally doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, yeah. What I was gonna gun for though about your view is that like one thing I just want to understand. You said because what best fits an explanation, right? Um, for like moral talk, because that's what a pluralist would believe in, like the meaning of it's magical pluralist for that. Like a pluralist sit there and say what's best for an explanation. We would obviously like, of course, gun to like what fits this for terms and like of course the meaning of like these moral things. Like you can definitely have other views, etc., but we just have like some type of slap on it. Like, are you trying to go to like a holy shit, nominalistic view? Like, are you trying to gun for that, or like because like I did bring that up earlier about semantics, but you said about meaning. Like, I just want to know is it nominalistic towards like other situations which involve moral things, or like are you just sitting there saying because someone can have non-prop talk or like
Um, when you say nominalistic towards the other positions, I'm not sure what that means. Are you saying that like, do I think that the other positions concerning mine are like what empty?
what I'm trying to ask is like more so would you have like best fit terminology and you declare this like moral talk of it, right? Like say for example, justice. I can believe that there's justice for a situation and one person or one other side could not, right? But I would deem this based off the meaning of the situation, like this behind the aesthetic, or just whatever you want to call it. Because like again, I don't think I clarified what situation example. I'm just like naming off like of course will be like the properties of the said stance. Based on the situation's context and applicability, is there like some type of nominalistic thing going on here with the terms, or would you find solace in the context and like perceive it to be good or this and that? Because I feel like that would be a subjectivist part, or just like some type of like determining is like, oh yeah, I feel this is like this like moral. Because like, do you feel good subjectively, or would you just find the best context through rationale?
I'm I'm really not sure what you're asking me here.
Okay, let me say it again. Are you finding solace in a context through rationale, like trying to figure out what depends on like, oh yeah, for terminology, I would find best sit like super like morale, like, or would you sit there and say from a subjectivist account, oh yeah, I feel good because then this is like the determination rather than there's like rationale and determination. So it's like both are subjectivist accounts, but I feel like one would be a minimalist because there's less like complex subjective entities within there and that makes it parsimonious, or through rationale, which can of course like be several more because like you got to go through like examining this yada yada yada. Like when you say best fit for that, like what do you mean by like that? Like I'm just trying to ask, is it maximalist, minimalist, or what in that context?
Um, okay, when you say, because I recall you saying earlier that maximalism was sort of holding that there's the best fit for for an explanation of like the theory in its truth would be actually I'm not even sure. But okay, so I can tell you like why I hold it, not why I hold the theory, but like what I mean when I say like the theory is like some sort of fit as an explanation. So like what I think is the case is that like if you want to hold some sort of moral theory, you at least should be able to process of elimination to understand whether or not that moral theory can hold up the scrutiny or the objections of like other moral theories. So when I say that like my moral semantics or my moral semantic thesis at least is like pluralist, and when I say that it's like whatever you want to call it, pluralist, maximalist, pluralist, minimalist, whichever one, I'm not really sure of the distinction there that you're making, but if you regardless of what you want to call it, right? It's likely pluralism, at least pluralism in the sense that like multiple, seemingly incompatible views can be held at the same time without, forfeiting the thesis that you have. So when I say at least, um, like my moral semantic thesis is like true or like an evidential fit for like talk, what I mean there is at the very least that out of some set of moral theories that are competing and incompatible, I can eliminate the other views by way of a couple of counterexamples. Like, for example, why would I be a I don't know, why would I be a cognitivist if I can find an example of someone stating uh someone engaging in some ethical inquiry that actually is, just non-propositional or like non-cognitive, right? If someone can state some judgment and it cannot represent any fact, then why would I believe that all moral talk represents facts, right? And why would I be I don't know, why would I be a um I was about to say naturalist, but I don't really hold that fucking non-naturalist naturalist like difference. I that it almost seems like weird to me to make a difference. No, not weird, but like holding naturalism versus non-naturalism. To me, I don't think there's like very good argument in favor of like holding either. But um, like essentially, right? Um,
Yeah,
if I can like a counterexample to a view, and that view doesn't stand up to the counterexample like rationally, like obviously I don't have a reason to hold it, right? If a view states for all x, x is I don't know, um, for all x. X is a car, and then I find some X, that looks like an X, but seemingly isn't a car. I don't know why I hold view that all X or for all X, X is a car, right? So when I hold these, when I hold like the semantic things, I say it's essentially like a methodology where I look at the other moral theories and I say, well, if I can find something that makes this view false, I don't know why I'd hold the view as opposed to like some reconciliation of like the the strengths of those views instead, which is why I hold that thesis. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it's like rationale or like egoistical things. So like what I gained from it is you're more of like a maximalist when it comes to explanation and shit like that. So what if I was to sit there and propose that what if there's like more like theories out there and like you only have like specific selection because of what we know through terminology, etc. Like, would you find because you don't know this specific thing, it can hold that it's better than these moral views, or would you hold because we don't know what that is? I think a view might be more justifiable when it comes to that because again, when you're of course like sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, these views can be better," or one is more compatible with what I could take to be as like better than other ones through counterexamples and shit like that. What if there's one that's better but we don't know yet? Right? Would you be able to decide one that you're open to this specific option and try and find it, like and try and find it through like justification, etc., like that? What I'm just trying to ask is that what would be your theory of knowledge when it comes to that? Like, are you like a positivist? Are you like a rationalist? Like, those are just ways of obviously knowing. And I think obviously when it comes to that, would you be able to find that out or deduce like some type of other like moral fact, or is your stance more so closed-minded where it's like a minimalist compared to the other one? Because I did offer that. Oh yeah, my own methodology would be more open to like other like viewpoints which could possibly be there, which is the reason why I think one explanation would be flawed than the other. Would your explanations be flawed because of other open theories?
Was that the end of the sentence?
You got all that right.
Yeah. I have a summary of it. That's
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like how my brain
Yo,
works.
I was gonna sit there and say if you did not hear it, I'm typing that up because I'm not repeating that. Like I have my dog yapping us up in my background.
No, I have the same thing, but it's not even my dog; it's my sister's dog. But so okay, just to confirm, right, that my summary like tracks. Essentially, you are definitively asked for my epistemological theory, and you're trying to understand how it's I come to how it is I come to what I know with regards to my moral theory, and is it
Well,
on the basis of whether or not I can have like some I don't know some sort of positive view, positivist view, or like um certain tidbits of knowledge are like known a priori or not a priori. What was it? Empirical or logically deductive or like is it along the ballpark of that? Like in virtue of what do I hold my theory with regards to epistemology, right?
to clarify, is like I was asking, like if there's another theory that, of course, your view can be open to, like say for example, there can be a better explanation we don't know yet because I explained that my own methodology can be open to that, and maybe like an explanation could not be sufficient because there's something else out there, right? And something else can be remotely anything, I guess, like that proves it like wrong, just in case there's an explanation is insufficient. Obviously, there comes a like a cost where it wouldn't be like the best, right? Because I explain myself as like some type of pragmatist when deducting, etc. But one thing I do ask is that so because I see this as like very like limiting maybe because like you're comparing other theories, like are those theories known theories? Like how would you approach if there's a view that we can gain from like knowledge and etc, but we don't truly like know what it is or to label it, right? Because you're just comparing other theories. Like what if there's another theory? What would be your theory of knowledge of comparing? Of course would it be like, of course, like I would take this to be because XYZ, like I'm just asking for that, and more so like of course like logical validity because like or it could be empirical, yada yada yada. It just depends. Like because I wasn't asking you if you're a positivist. I'm just asking what's your like theory now. Like I listed off a few examples that you could choose from, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are them. I'm just trying to guess like what's your stance on that. Also, my bad if I'm sound like I'm like, fucking sobbing. It's just the room I'm in is very filled with fucking whatever this shit is around me. But yeah,
Okay, so okay, I'll just one weird thing about what you said is that like you have like some the thing you're saying almost sounds like it's like a critique of logical positive to me. Like whether or not I can know the truth of some or whether or not I can know there's some view or whether or not how do I word it? Whether or not there's some view that I don't know that could be a better like evidential fit for the data. I feel like whether or not I can know that is if I were a logical positivist, right, and I held that all like genuine knowledge is either what was it empirical or what deductive, something like that. Actually, hold on, I could pull up the definition real quick, just to demonstrate the point. Um, where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? Ah, analytic. That's what it was. Fucking okay. There we go. It was analytic or fucking empirical. Yeah, it almost sounds like you're making a critique against logical positivism. And
give me a minute.
uh,
Wait. Give me a minute. I gotta grab food. Give me a minute.
all right, pedantic prince, more like stupid Finch. Anyways,
Yeah, sorry. It's 2 egg omelets. Just give me a minute.
all right. That fucking dog starting to bark again. Bruh. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm back. I just put my food on my stand. Um, So what I was asking, or just to clarify, I don't think that's like a critique. Like I'm just asking in general, like your example of like I don't know, comparing the validity and stuff like that as like a pluralist, and of course like that type of like elimination process. I'm just asking, what would you do if you came across something like that? Maybe I'm not necessarily trying to attack him with the stance. I'm just asking like in a general notion to like of course like stance and everything. Like if that's like inclusive in it, or like is like because like if it's not, I would say that's like a minimalist stance and isn't open to like sufficient explanation because like I think that would just put another thing into question. But yeah.
If you're just asking whether or not my view can account for like something that I might not know, but like what I was saying earlier is like if I was a positivist, like well, that thing that I don't know, that like my theory might not be able to account for, or might not even that my theory might not be able to account for it, but like the view that's like unknown that could potentially be a evidential fit, better than the theory that I hold. Like if I was some sort of logical positivist, that wouldn't even be like a cognitively meaningful view. Fuck, cognitively meaningful view if it wasn't analytic or empirical. But with regards to like whether or not what my theories like on whether or not um you know I hold this like minimalism you're talking about uh essentially because you would say that you're like a pragmatist, or like whether or not there's some view that you might not be able to account for or you might not be able to talk about, right? Because you just don't know it. You'd say that you would adopt that theory, and you're essentially not a minimalist because if that theory were to be presented to you, you would you would hold that view on account of its merits, right?
Well, in account to like other types of like views. Basically what I was just like trying to say is like a pragmatist, or maybe like when it comes to a pragmatist approach, I would say, oh yeah, if this is like of course more of an evidential fit, it would definitely be better for its usage. And I think of course you would like just of course invest in the idea that it's just of course better and attains to more so a maximalist percentage of like usage than the other ones. So excuse me, I burped. But kind of the point I'm just trying to say, sit there and say. Also when you said if you're like a positivist, okay. Um,
I mean,
but
like I'm not, but like I find it like kind of convincing a little bit. I don't think like the refutation, at least for as far as I read, I don't find like the refutations to like logical positivism like very compelling. Like especially like that self contradiction one, or like the self refutation one. That one's very stupid to me.
fair, fair. Um, yeah, I guess this is kind of like just I don't know. So just one more question, because of course you try and compare theories. If there was a theory that is more so like presenting as more of an evidential fit, would you like put all your like weight towards it, as in like oh yeah, finding it like convincing or no?
Um, well, if it was an evidential fit, I feel like at least like phenomenologically, it'd be more convincing, at least to me. But because like out of like all the theoretical virtues, like I feel like evidential fit is like really, really important. But I don't know if I'd adopt it immediately, depending on like the commitments that it holds. So I, I'm gonna say that like if there was some theory that was like a better evidential fit or something like that, I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't hold it, but I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't discredit it. I'd like criticize the view based on like the commitments I have, or I consider my commitments in respect to like my intuitions about how the the field works or whatever is being talked about. So like for example, um, if I'm a I don't know if I'm just like let's say I'm broadly like anti-realist, right, about morals, because I pretty much am, right. I don't hold like a metaphysical thesis, so like I'm squarely in that camp, like by virtue. But let's say I'm like broadly anti-realist about meta ethics, and there's some I don't know someone gives like a constructivist account. This is like a true thing, by the way. someone gives like some constructivist account that seems like a better uh, it seems like a better evidential fit, or seems like, like at least a compelling and like competing theory in the, like, realm of work. I wouldn't adopt the theory base, because the base view that I hold, like the anti-realism, would be, what aligns with my English and how meta ethics works. So it's I have to it's sort of like a structure, right? You have the base, and then I'm gonna do like a Marxist thing, right? It's like you have a base, right? And then you have a superstructure, which is built on top of the base, right? So like the anti there would be the base, okay? And then the superstructure would be the other view that adds to the anti-realism and gives them some sort of flavor, but it doesn't subsume, not subsume, it doesn't like overtake, or um, it's like an asymmetrical relationship, right? So the base is over the superstructure, but the superstructure isn't over the base. It doesn't affect the base in the same way, right? If you want to think of it as like some sort of epiphenomenal phenomenon, you could, right? So maybe the base affects the superstructure, but the superstructure is like causally inert in some way. But um, so let's say that someone has this like metaethical constructivist account, and it actually makes like a good, you know, it actually has like some very good like theoretical benefits to it. So the thing I would do is not per se like adopt that theory, even if I thought it was a better evidential fit, because it doesn't align with the base. Like it doesn't align general anti-realism, because that's just the default, right? It doesn't align with the default. Then I can't really hold that view without like twisting my brain at knots, because my brain just doesn't work that way. But what I would do is at least try to hold like some sort of, I would take the commitments that that constructivist view holds, and I would see which ones are at least compatible with my realism. And so I would uh, have some sort of like middle ground between the views, usually.
Okay, that's fair. If anything, I would just sit there and say, I mean, like probably like more so. I was gonna say that. Oh yeah, this kind of sounds like where I was like heading. But more, it's more so on the road, but not quite the same road. Like think of like like a roller coaster. You can go several different many ways, but it's like similar ways, but then you turn. It's kind of like that. But yeah, I'd say. I mean, like definitely not a bad thing, but choosing a specific view would make like the context would discredit the theory. I feel like that's more so like you could sit there and say it's not accepting it as like a fact, like kind of like how a weak atheist would sit there and say, "Oh yeah, well, I don't like lean towards the belief fully. I don't accept it as facts," like a like radical atheist would. But also regarding that, I feel like that's kind of like aiming towards the territory of like agnosticism, but it's not totally there on that. I would sit there and say, "Oh yeah, well, okay, well maybe agnostic affairs are probably like good in that case then. I mean like you can sit there and not be sure, but like of course like going on that definitely is probably what was I gonna say? Shit, I had a brain fart.
Skibbity
Yeah,
Rizzler.
yeah. I was gonna sit there and say seems pretty in line with how I would go to. Like you wouldn't discredit it or nor would you choose, but you'd have the option to choose it and you would just sit there and say like because like in my own account, I didn't really discredit Gnosticism as being like a that you couldn't uphold because I would just sit there and say, "Oh yeah, well, there's other options." Who the fuck just did that, dude? What was that?
That
Someone
wasn't
slop.
me. It was
That's
fucking
Nate. That's Nate,
Ray Bay
bro.
and his soundboard.
No, that's Nate, bro. Nate was slopping on my cock. That guy is like a fetish, bro. Um, you know, as I was saying though, from my own perspective, I feel like maybe like Yo, I wish I could say that back at you, but I'm a fucking cracker. But yeah, as I was saying, who hired this guy to do this?
Mocha has nitro. That's why.
Yeah,
What
I
the
take that back.
hell?
Yeah, as I was saying though, when it comes to pragmatist type viewpoints, I understand when like discredit like some type of agnostic point of view. Um, but there could be like more so of like things which can suit like an explanation doesn't fit well, but then you can choose another explanation. I'd sit there and say that allows for you to choose something. And I feel like the normativity would be the choice option, like an air theory type B stance. And I feel like more so when you submit to like, oh yeah, I'm not leaning towards that, but I wouldn't discredit it. It does go near the agnostic territory, but isn't that just doesn't really find like a radical belief in the viewpoint you which you would already have. So if anything, I would say that kind of does align like with what we could choose from like a pragmatic viewpoint. If something is like, oh yeah, this could definitely be like an evidentiary fit, but because we don't truly know at that point, and then I could find something else about that, like because like I feel like you could also hold that there could be some type of epistemic foundation, which you can arise a new belief by finding some about some, or just like sit there and say, there's a way to find out about another belief, then compare, contrast, and etc. I think like the best fit for that would come down to how much you can choose out of that and that'd be maximalist instead of like minimalist, like parsimonious view. For pragmatist, I feel like that does kind of like outline what I'm trying to aim for as like choosing normativity. So I feel like you
I,
could
I'm
hold
gonna
something. Sorry,
I'm gonna
go on.
like make like a slight pivot. What are your like views on ethics? Like not meta ethics, like like I don't know, um,
Like abortion.
like apply ethics or like normative ethics. Like what views do you hold?
Uh, hmm. Well, when it comes to ethics and like I can go into like utilitarianism. I don't hold Rule Act as like a good establishment for like utilitarianistic things or debates. I don't like accept the Rule Act. I don't accept hedonistic, which is like an egotistical view, more so like egoism view or egoistic view. Those are the things which I don't accept. I also would probably be like a when it comes to like morals and what's good, probably like abortion. It's like, do you believe atheism could justify human rights?
Well, atheism doesn't make any positive like uh claims, like political claims. So I feel like
Well, I'm
when
talking
people
about
talk
like,
about, oh, atheism could justify this or that, like I don't feel like that makes very much sense. But
well, like when I'm talking about like in some type of like atheistic perspective, I feel like I would talk about like its application towards like a society. Like if someone were to fully believe in atheism, would that give the gesture towards accepting as like a human right to be like free or us having rights in the first place without some type of divine creator? Wholeheartedly though, I
um
think that more so talk about like if society would have some type of moral disaffectionate or affectionate.
yeah, atheists can absolutely like atheists, particular atheists, philosophers, whatever you want to talk about, like they absolutely can account for like political rights without a divine creator. In fact, I think I'd say even uh I'd say even further that like a divine creator existing doesn't really strike me as something that justifies political rights in of itself.
Okay, okay. Mm, mm, mm. You want to end the recording, by the way, or no? Because like we kind of like pivoted away, and like we don't have much else to talk about.
I mean, I think this might be interesting. I mean, like, do you think atheists can account for like political rights?
I mean, like if we're to talk about, oh yeah, if I don't have a belief within a divine or rational creator, I think like maybe like if I were to believe that because they exist, they have the right up to their own existence. I mean, like you could definitely view that. That's typically somebody would justify like or uses like a way to justify abortion, like pro life. But you could definitely also like attribute it to different things, like the atheist argument and everything for what I just brought up.
I mean, I'm not sure. Was that like a? Are you saying like they can, like it's possible in principle, or like are you
I'm
saying
not
that
like
it's possible in principle, but no one's actually done it? Are you saying like it's impossible, no one can do it in principle?
well, I'm not making like an active assertion on it myself. I'm just saying that like people often use this as like a way, and it's like maybe like if we were like make some type of analysis over the argument, maybe it'd be more suitable. I mean, like yeah,
I mean, do you find like sort of like atheistic approaches to political rights compelling?
I mean, I don't really like that.
Because I think there's
I
a
don't
very. Do you know like allegedly Ian?
allegedly, yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, I think they have a very compelling like argument for why people have political rights.
Oh, well, maybe I'll check it out in the future. Uh,
I mean, do you want me to state it and see if you have any problems with it?
I mean, like, do you have like a inside text? You know how the app.
You want me to text it out? Okay. I've listened to that thing like 13 fucking billion times over because I watch their lives all the time. So I've heard this fucking argument like 13 trillion times. So I can I get it out.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
There's another fucking plane outside my house. Jesus Christ. Actually, what do we define a rice real quick? I finish typing this out. Kirk. Kirk's a fucking like unironically a great debater. I don't know why
You
he
know
had to be such an idiot.
what I define as like go to right is probably we carry the flame. We'll speak out for the gospel. We are Charlie Kirk.
No, a political right. Like,
I mean,
or I could probably give him a definition.
I mean,
Um,
like just give the argument. I mean, like I'll like give my thoughts after.
okay. Uh, look in VC chat. It's not like a formal argument, right? It's kind of like an enthymeme, which is just like a incomplete argument that could be made valid if you include some more premises. But like roughly, which one of like these sentences do you like disagree with?
Well, unless I believe in slavery, which Blue Spirit does, because he's a southern inbred fuck. I think more so talking about that. I don't really have a problem with this. Like, I accept like, oh yeah, will to be that type of thing. Because like, the existence part I brought up, like the right to existence. I mean, like, I think that just kind of like furthers like some type of belief in it. Like, I don't see any type of problem with this as like an argument. I mean, like, yeah.
Well, so then just what just like that, you just agree like he's gonna like political rights.
Me,
I
I
mean, I
don't
know you
see
said
any
it's like
problem.
possible and like, but like,
Yeah, I just don't really like, see any type of like reason to deny it. I mean, like, of course, like well-being and freedom, and like it's kind of like the general thing we would assume for like happiness. I think it's very utilitarianistic, but more so, I mean, like, yeah, establishes the right for like an entire set of people or just one person. I feel like you could definitely subscribe to it. I mean, like, it's like general outcome for moral, so it makes people happy and etc. And it's good to have. I mean, like, yeah.
is there any things that you think atheists can't do, like philosophically or
Well, I
politically?
Well, I think an atheist can't get off of Reddit. I mean, like, if that's like a thing. Because I mean, I could argue
Reddit's
with
pretty
them that
good.
Reddit's good.
Yeah.
I was just saying this. I mean, like, I haven't personally been on Reddit. I mean, only thing I've been on Reddit for is probably like when I was like younger. Like, I used to jerk off a lot. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
When I say Reddit, I don't mean like a porn account. Like I have a genuine Reddit.
Yeah, I know. Like, I said when I used to go on Reddit, I used to go in there and go like, oh yeah, for jerking off purposes. Yo, why are these guys being like sick in here?
I mean, like other than Reddit, like is there something atheists can't do? Like let's find something to talk about.
Why are all these people giving information? This guy couldn't hear me say this. Um, yeah, no. So I mean, like, if I may give like a comment on the discussion we had, if anything, I feel like it was just more so like a trade of views. I didn't see a problem with how it went. I just think that like, yeah, I guess it's like it's good. 'Cause I mean, like, uh, good faith, good discussion, wasn't bad.
What do you think about abortion?
About abortion, I'm pro circumstance.
So, well, like what circumstances?
Rape, blackmail. What else? Yeah, that's about it. Like, that's circumstance.
I mean, that sounds. You say pro circumstance, but like, isn't that like the most? Isn't that isn't that like the most general like pro life view that like there are certain circumstances where like abortion might be morally permissible, but like all else equal, or morally impermissible.
I mean,
'Cause,
like,
like
I
I've
can
heard
also
like every pro lifer make that exception.
like most pro lifers. I mean, that I've come across. Like, do you know who Gyro is or Gyro?
Yeah.
That dude. I think he's pretty garbage. But I mean, like, when it comes to Gyro, I heard him say rape was morally permissible. I mean, like, that's the most pro lifer thing I've heard.
that's, that's just unhinged. That's just plain up, just fucking unhinged.
Dude, how do you say rape is
What did he
morally
have like an
permissible?
argument for it, or was just he just being stupid?
I don't even know. All I did was hear Mr. BC say, "Oh yeah, rape is morally permissible."
I hope they're joking.
Though to be fair, most debaters would probably believe in that, considering their track records. Who sent that as a chat? What the fuck is that? Mohammed Hijab versus Alex O'Connor.
Muhammad Hijab is the lamest fucking person I've ever seen. Holy
Dude,
shit.
as a Muslim myself, I think he's kind of ass. Like hot ass.
He is so fucking bad.
Charlie Kirk level or no?
Charlie would slam Muhammad. It's not even close. The atheist cannot account for morality. The atheist cannot account for human rights. The atheist cannot account for liberalism, the fall of man, the West. Like, okay, bro. Oh my god. It's just is I don't like the I'm not gonna say like I don't like the word talking point, but like if there's any way to criticize the word talking point, well, the phrase talking points, and if there's any way to like promote talking about talking points, like Muhammad Hijab is the one of the only people I will ever say has like just memorized talking points. Like he has